Okay. I know I didn't plan this too far in advance, but I did want to come on and talk about some information that I found out about some SMS blasters, and if possibly an SMS blaster was used in like taking over Libby's phone. Let me see if I can share a page here. Sorry, this is going to be loud. And I have dogs here today that I'm watching, so there's no telling what kind of noises are going to happen. Okay. Okay. That's not what I wanted. Hey, it's unindicted co-conspirator. Yay! I have one person in the chat. Yes. That's fucking awesome. Okay, Okay, I'm gonna share something here. That's what I'm doing. We know it always takes me forever. Hang on a second. Okay, I need to go here first. Sorry, I'm crap. I wanted to share a document that Cecil had on Libby's phone. I don't know why this is doing this. Hello. Can't believe my dogs are. Well, actually, I have two dogs here that are German. German short hair pincher or not pointers. Sorry, I used to have a pincher a long time ago, and it was blue, and her name was Misty. But these German short hairs are nuts. Dog, he's such a good boy. Yes, he is. He's such a good boy. He just likes to eat butterflies. Okay, let me see if I can get this phone thing. Okay, this is what. Anyway, I'm gonna throw this up there, but I want to talk about the SMS blasters because that was pretty freaking interesting. A couple of years ago, I talked about what the law enforcement agencies use. They work the same way as a SMS blaster. So let me see if I can get this to load. I'm sorry, my shit's slow. Yes, that's what I want. Okay. Okay, now I think I can share it. I should have had that already. It should be sharing. Anyway, on Libby's phone, if you will notice, if you go down and look at all of the text messages she gets, she doesn't have any iMessages. No iMessages at all. When they should all be iMessages because she's talking to people that, like her family and on the same account, on the same phone account, not necessarily the same iCloud account, which it could have been. They could have been all signed into the same iCloud. We know Kelsey was able to get in there and delete a bunch of stuff. So, I don't know. Anyway, all of these, like the first one here from this message, Tyler, which I did a reverse lookup on this phone number, And this phone number goes to somebody that lives in Monticello. So I don't know if they're related to that Tyler person or not, but I believe their last name was Hartwell. You know, sometimes people will save a name as something else. It's not really the person that, like, Tyler may not really be Tyler. Tyler may be Mary or something like that. You know, people do that all the time. Like, I had saved my son's name in my phone as Donkey, and my daughter got into my phone one time and uh she changed my name, like the owner's name, to Spider Pig for some reason. So I had it in there as Miss Awesome. So when my phone would talk to me, it would say, you know, it'd call me Miss Awesome. I got on there and it was like Spider Pig, and I was like, well, what the heck? Anyway, so I mean, we do stuff like that in my family. Anyway, so Tyler may be Tyler, and Tyler may not be Tyler. He may be somebody else, or she, or whoever. It may be a last name, maybe a first name, maybe a last name. Anyway, I don't know who that person is. I know some other YouTubers have, they think they know who that is. And I'm going to go back here to the chat real quick, because if you know who it is, I did a reverse lookup on that phone number and it comes back to a Hartwell in Monticello. Static. That's just my mic. I had to use a different one. I'm in a different room today. I'm in the bunker back at the house, so where I hardly get any cell phone service. And I'm like, oh my God, this is working better than it did in the living room. So anyway, who that is, just leave it in the comment section, or leave it in the chat. I'll look it up later, or I'll look at it later. It's hard for me to read the chat while I'm doing this. Okay, so we have information from Libby's phone, and apparently her phone only gets SMS messages. Yeah, I know. It said Hartwell, and it was a female. I can't remember the first name, but it seemed like it was Emily or something. But yeah, it was a female with that phone. Okay, so apparently Libby's phone only gets SMS messages. And I'm like, was that because she was having problems with her phone, or what? And like I've always said, I don't think this was Libby's phone. We all know Libby had the rose gold. It was an extra phone that someone was using. Maybe they didn't even have Wi-Fi on it. They were using somebody else's Wi-Fi, or if they were using somebody else's phone as a hotspot. I don't know, but anyway. So what's the deal with the iMessages, and also all these to the phone? Like, let me go back over here. Sis and greatest aunt ever. What's happening with my thing? Okay, and greatest aunt ever, and then she, March and Patty. Where's it at? Oh, God, stupid thing. It's so slow. Yeah, like, we got best aunt ever here on page 19, and all these messages coming in after certain time. That's best aunt ever. Becky, March and Patty. Best aunt ever. Was there anything on here that could have been from like WhatsApp or anything? I mean, because like I said, everything should have came in as iMessages, not SMS text. And I mean, we have a bunch of these incoming calls that aren't answered. But I thought I saw something where it was like a FaceTime that was initiated. Oh, right here. Incoming FaceTime video call. That seemed like it was kind of different than all the others. Anyway, so that was my interest when I was looking at this, was why all the SMS messages. So I looked up some things, and what I found was like I said, back in the day, on in the area where a Stingray would be used, which is a device that the FBI or other law enforcement agencies use that imitate a cell phone tower. So what it does is it captures the signal of all of these phones, and it makes you think that you're hooked up to your, I mean, everything looks the same on your phone. It looks like it's hooked up to the tower, when really it's hooked up to a box it's made by Harris Corporation, and there's different varieties of the Stingray, different versions of it. There's Stingray, Stingray 2, there's Rayfish, there's all these different types of devices that law enforcement will use to put in their car or put in their trunk or whatever and go drive around and either park somewhere or drive in a certain area to pick up all of these, to catch all these phones, almost kind of like a GeoNet in a way, but not really, or geofence net. Anyway, it captures people's cell phones. They use this to like find fugitives and stuff, and the reason why the Supreme Court knocks a lot of that down for you devices that law enforcement use is because it is a huge infringement on your right to privacy and everything. Because not only does it catch, like if they're looking for a fugitive and they've got his phone number and they're specifically looking for him, and they go set up this device in their van or car or whatever, the FBI, and go park outside his house or on the next block or a mile away, they're going to catch all of the phones in that area, not just the person that they're looking for. And the info on those phones comes up. So it's like you're going to get everything by people that you don't even have a warrant for. So that's why it's kind of a big deal. Now, on the SMS Blaster, that's something that kind of works the same way. But barking like psychos here any minute. But I wanted to ask, the questions like these answered, and I mean, would that be something like from a rational investigation, or is looking into the SMS angle just, like ramblings of a crank? You decide. I mean, what's reasonable here? So I want to discuss the issue about Libby's iPhone 6S when it came to sent and received on 2/13/2017, because I don't think we really heard a lot from the state or the defense on, I mean, we heard differences between SMS. I mean, what's the why behind it? Why are they only getting the SMS? So with all that, did either side ever explain why? We know those were SMS messages, and I feel like that might have been misleading in a non-nefarious way by saying several SMS messages came in at 4 a.m. Um, see on these reports were all SMS messages rather than iMessage message. So I understand the point of the 4 a.m. messages loading and what all of that meant, and maybe that was the beginning of the defense trying to bring in why all the messages were SMS messages, but it never. This was, and that was what caused all of Libby's messages to be bypassed from iMessage. So if iMessage is the normal way, received SMS instead of iPhone, the iPhone iMessage. Did this only occur on this? Did the SMS messages only occur on this phone for a specific time on a specific day, and the rest of the messages on the other days came in as iMessage? Can you to how many SMS messages were received during what days and how many hours of these days were the iMessage servers bypassed? Because I think that's something that needs to be discussed, because there's several reasons that will happen that I'm going to explain. Because I believe the reason why this phone was using the SMS message system rather than the iMessage server, another part of the puzzle could possibly be solved. So, interference. Was there interference of some kind that might cause the iMessage server to be bypassed? Or was there a particular setting on this phone that was interfering with that process? In the normal everyday problems, sending can be disrupted by several different issues. Number one, poor network connectivity, Wi-Fi or cellular. Number two, outdated iOS software. Number three, incorrect date and time settings. Number four, Apple server outages. Number five, a needed SIM card update. Number six, carrier issues with SMS MMS activation. 7, or a failure to sign into the Apple ID. Now, of these 7 issues, which one of these did we constantly hear about in this case? It seemed like every bit of evidence was tied to what? Incorrect time settings. Everybody's time was off in this part of the country by around an hour. So, like, what the hell's going on? What's going on with the timeline in this case? Is it quantum clock entanglement? Like all the video systems in the city are mysteriously quantum linked to the state's Apple Watch, which runs on he's guilty o'clock, where every time the evidence shows something inconvenient, the clocks politely shift by 60 minutes to protect the timeline. Yeah, science, bitch. Einstein would be proud. Or horrified. Maybe both. It just seemed like anytime any data that came in for the defense, the judge's fair trial knob was adjusted. Like hidden under the bench is a big red dial labeled evidence timing, slightly fuck with it. Every time the DA enters video evidence that could possibly look bad for the state, the judge gives the old knob a casual twist and yells, sustained. Also subtract 57 minutes and call it a day. Next exhibit. I mean, what's going on? Every time there was a piece of evidence, it was like it was off by almost an hour. We had the video from the Hoosier Harvest Store and Cheyenne's photos. In one of the documents that I read here in the Google Drive, it said they notified Cheyenne that her time was off by about an hour. I believe they said right at an hour. And I know that that part of the state has, you know, a little bit north of there, you run into the issue of there is a time change. Libby's phone. So, out of all these things that it could have been, like poor network connectivity, outdated iOS, incorrect date and time settings, Apple server outages, I needed SIM card update, you're to sign into Apple ID. Only one of those things is something that we kept hearing over and over again, to bypass iMessage and go to SMS messages. So that was new. Yeah, and screenshots, like Redacta said. Screenshots. I mean, you would think that would be, you know, kindergarten, but okay. Okay, there's the dogs going psycho, like I said they would do. Oh my god. So yeah. Okay, so there is actually some lawsuits involving, and because of the iMessage, Libby's phone are correct. I saw in the Google Drive where Cheyenne's phone, where they told her her phone was an hour off. So I was wondering about that. And also, I can't remember which document it was on. I'll have to dig through again and look at it. So there are lawsuits. Like I said, crap, my phone's and it involves Apple with their iMessaging system, because if you go from an Apple phone to like an Android or something, iMessages. And so I'd never heard of that before, but there's a J lawsuit about it, and it mainly stems from this woman that her iPhone 4 with the Samsung Galaxy S5. I mean, this goes back. This lawsuit is like 2015, and 24. The DOJ is saying they believe iPhone is violating the Sherman Act. So the plaintiff replaced her iPhone 4 with the Samsung Galaxy S5. As a result of that switch, alleges that she has failed to receive countless text messages sent to her from Apple device users. Apple failed to disclose that use of iMessage and messages would result in undelivered messages if an iPhone user switched to a non-Apple device. Information about the messages, about the message application when a former messages user switches to a non-Apple device, resulting in undelivered text messages. Apple's actions allegedly interfered with plaintiff's contract with wireless because plaintiff was entitled to send and receive text messages under her wireless service contract, and Apple's actions deprived her of the benefit of receiving text messages from Apple. Originally only referred to messages sent using the short messages service, but now only encompasses messages containing media such as pictures, videos, and sounds. When using SMS to send a text message, the message is transmitted in SMS form to an SMS center, where it is then routed to a transmission tower operated by the service network. The transmission tower then sends the message to the recipient's wireless device through the device's control channel. Once a message is received, the device notifies the recipient of receipt. This process is the same for MMS messages. Apple wireless devices are capable of sending SMS and MMS messages as described above, but Apple also provides iMessage, a messenger service that uses data networks such as Wi-Fi, 2G, 3G, and LTE networks to send text messages, pictures, video, audio, documents, contact information, and group messages to other Apple devices with the Messages application. Rather than incurring an SMS charge to send a text message, iMessage text messages are treated as additional data transfers. An Apple device user with iOS 5 or higher sending a text message to another Apple's application to send text and media iMessages rather than using SMS. This process problem when going from an iPhone to a non-iPhone like a Samsung or other device. On or about April 16, 2014, plaintiff replaced her iPhone 4 with a Samsung Galaxy and retained her same cellular carrier and telephone number. The non-Apple device did not have messages and could not send iMessages. Shortly after, plaintiff switched to the Samsung device. Plaintiff noticed she was not receiving text messages she expected to receive from users of Apple devices. After this initial discovery, plaintiff contacted her service provider, Verizon Wireless, which informed her that she needed to turn off messages on her old iPhone. Afterwards, plaintiff began to receive text messages from some Apple device users, but not from others. Plaintiff again contacted Verizon Wireless and was told that this had been an issue when people switched from an Apple device to a non-Apple phone. And after attempting additional troubleshooting, plaintiff was referred to Apple for further assistance. So I included this lawsuit to show that there are various things that can interrupt normal service for iMessages, notable quirks. So some of the key factors for interrupting, like we stated before, there can be network issues. There can be a weak or an unstable Wi-Fi or cellular data prevents connecting to Apple servers. On and off can fix this. Apple server outages. Occasionally, Apple systems experience downtime. Check the Apple system status page to ensure iMessage services are available. And from what I gather, everybody else's phones were working just fine, and Libby's phone. So, incorrect date or time. If the phone's date, time, or time zone is incorrect, secure communication with Apple servers will set this to set automatically in general settings. Activation issues. Newly installed SIM cards or updated systems may take up to 24 hours to activate with carriers. Outdated software. Older devices like the iPhone 6S may need the latest possible iOS update to maintain compatibility with server requirements. Account settings. Ensure you are signed in with your Apple ID. Under Settings, Messages. Network settings issues. Corrupted network settings can be fixed by going to General, Transfer, or Reset iPhone, Reset network settings. Storage space. If the phone is out of storage, it cannot receive new messages. Under Send and Receive, make sure the proper phone number is checked. So those are some things that can happen with you not getting your iMessage, but not necessarily it coming in as an SMS text, which it may. And when it comes to scammers and non-government interference with cell phone sender, also the scammers don't need your number to target your phone. That's because they are a type of cell site simulator. They can force any phone in its vicinity, which is anywhere between 500 to 2,000 yards, to connect with it. First, it lures you 4G signal, then knocks you down to a less secure 2G connection, where the scammer can then send out malicious SMS messages with links to click on. This whole process of diverting signals, then downgrading the signal, then releasing the signals for scammers can take less than 10 seconds. Network carriers cannot monitor or shut down signals when this happens because all of this happens outside of the purview of actual legit mobile networks. Some evolutionary pressure may have contributed to this devious innovation. And like, there's a news story that was talked about in Wired or on Wired, the website, And it was the police in the UK had arrested a man that was found with an SMS blaster in the trunk of his car. It appears as though he was driving around for a week in London using an SMS blaster to send out thousands of nefarious messages. So now that some of the ways scammers use an SMS blaster have been described, what about the police tools that are using the same type of technology? So about 2 years ago, I brought up an issue of the Stingray device possibly being used in an investigation sting around the Delphi area, because that was the rumor. There was a rumor that for some reason the FBI was already in the area, or DHS was already in the area for some reason when this crime went down. So I was wondering, could they have been using a Stingray device? Many people don't know what a Stingray device, or many people didn't know what a Stingray device was. But because of my education background in criminal justice, I did my thesis on some of the different types of cell site simulators and other tech police use in surveillance operations. And I addressed mainly the federal government law enforcement agencies and some issues that may arise out of the government's use of devices. I researched how these devices can interrupt some normal phone by areas where such a device, like a Stingray device made by Harris Corp, might have been used in the normal investigative process. So I started researching what was going on in 2017 and late 2016, where FBI or Department of Homeland launching a surveillance operation around the Delphi area or closely related communities. And I actually found some things of interest. There were several military operations involving the response to various civil threats. There were many training operations going on through specifically to the Delphi or rural areas. There weren't any official types of training going on from police departments to civilians for civil unrest. There was in my area, and they were on Facebook. The sheriff department, like, I noticed one of my local sheriff's departments was on social media recruiting civilians to train with his posse. And I noticed that right about the time of the January 6th shit show, my local sheriff's department deleted all of that information across all forms of social media. So one of the big draws from many rural communities where militias and sheriff's departments could be working together in this type of training. And I don't mean like they ask militias to come and, join their training for civil unrest. I just mean people who may be involved in militias and may be interested in that type of training if it were offered by a sheriff's department. Like in my area, they did. And so some of you in the rural areas, do you remember any of this going on? Do you remember military vehicles? Because I do. They are military stuff. We even got a Humvee with all the armor and everything. And I was like, why are we continuing to militarize our police? Why are we giving ex-military first dibs at police jobs when a lot of the ex-military are suffering from post-traumatic situations an officer might find himself in can trigger an ex-military officer? So let's pile on some post-traumatic stress disorder on top of some post-traumatic stress disorder and then serve it with a side of post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, that sounds really harmless. So with all of these observations and all these things going on, it's hard not to make like some connections here and there with things like, so that's what I was doing. I was researching things that were going on in that time frame, and why would there be an investigation going on possibly in that area? So I don't know if anybody has investigated that or not, but we did hear a lot about some type of militia training going on and around that area. And somehow Ron Logan had a whole bunch of firearms, like a whole bunch. So I don't know what was going on there, but there could have been a lot of people in that area. But this is something else too. The time of day. It was when most people were working. I see that my okay. Is when most people were at work and at school. So it would have to be the people that would be doing this crime, if they were targeted, would have to be people that knew their schedule or people close to them. It would also have to be people that knew the area well. So my whole question about the Stingray and everything was, could there have been one used? Was there something going on around that time frame that they were already looking into? Were they already looking into sextortion cases? Were they looking into some other type of federal crime in that area? So now, in that particular area, when it comes to training with the sheriff's departments and everything, I have a news story, if I can find it. Crap, where did I put it? News story that was Bartholomew County, I think was the county name, where they had done some training like that, and they did it with like Oath and somebody else, and they found that there were several few. It was a training that they were doing for civil unrest, and it was okay. So I don't know why my mic keeps going in and out now. Anyway, so there was some training going on for that type of their Lafayette officers. There were a few of them that were participating in that as part of Oath Keepers. And I know that there was a lot of looking into Oath Keepers as far as who made up their, who were part of the group there. And I think I believe I'll have to go back and look, but I believe they said 400, there were 400 officers at least that were part of that group. And I believe that was from just different states around. So anyway, what I was going to discuss today about the phone was we have people that have SMS blasters driving around doing this. And then you have law enforcement that have the same type of devices that can do the same things. And then I thought, well, if somebody was doing that, they would have to be parked in an area for several hours close by. And they probably wouldn't just be sitting in their car. They'd probably, leave it and say, or it would be somebody driving back and forth in the same area. So we have all the above going on in Delphi. We got Sarah Carbaugh driving around in this. Oh my God, my dogs. Hang on a second. Hey, shut up! Hey! Oh my God. Sorry, I'm dog sitting. Let me shut the door. Sounds like a freaking pound in here. Now they're probably going to whine because they can't get in the room. Okay, so anyway. yeah, like I was saying, so we got Sarah Carbaugh driving back and forth, and for whatever reason, I don't think anybody ever, she was just looking to see how many people were out at the trails that day, and she drove by how many times, and her testimony's weird, and she's weird. So you have that, and then we know that there was a truck parked there at the cemetery overnight, and anyway, things like that. I mean, people that have these SMS blasters or have something that can interfere, it can, they can interfere with the device. I believe a jammer has to be closer. I think that's the dog's trying to get in my room. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm live. Hang on, I'll be in there in a minute. Okay, so everybody's back from fishing or whatever, and I think they're getting ready to go. But anyway, I just wanted to bring out these different things that could possibly be going on with Libby's phone. Um, who knows? This case we'll probably never find out. We'll probably never know what happened. But were these questions ever asked anyway? Back to my original thought. Why did Libby's phone only receive SMS messages, iMessages? None. And then why couldn't they check to see messages would be coming in, and when it ended, when iMessages could start coming back in again? Or did they? So that's my thing. They can, tell me where to go to research that, or was that ever answered? I don't recall any of that ever being answered and even being talked about. So, I mean, I know they said a bunch of SMS messages came in at like 4 a.m., but that doesn't answer the question of why did that phone all day and all night only receive SMS messages. So it's like something was interfered with. There was some interference. And I'd kind of like to know what could interfere that way besides these things that I've mentioned, like because on the SMS blasters, it does make your phone divert to SMS. It won't allow iMessages for that period of time that your phone is hooked up to that or has that connection, because it's not a regular connection. And that's how they get on your phone, is they make it look like a regular cell phone connection when really it's just a 2G, which is doesn't have the security that the other connections have. So anyway, that's all I was going to talk about today. And yes, I still want to do the discussion on different types of um, groups out there that have that operate using rituals and that type of thing, and discuss some of those. But I didn't get a chance to do that because I was looking into the phone thing, so I've put that off again. And then also, I wanted to know why keeps trying to tie me into some type of, I don't, okay, my microphone is off, I'm assuming. Okay, microphone's back on. Green mentions, because God, why do I keep having microphone trouble? Okay, so anyway, some offenders in the Delphi area. And then Greenwood left a message, "You're one of them." And I have no idea he doesn't either, because he's so fucked up in the head and a major burnout. But why he said something else about Richard Allen being like a chomo or something. That. Why are people saying you guys just want to defend chomos? It's like, what? Richard Allen wasn't ever charged with anything like that. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm lost when people say that. And as far as wanting to protect a child unaliver or whatever, that, if you really think about it, wouldn't you want to make sure that the person that you have in there is the one that really did it? Because if you're just wanting him to stay in there and serve time for this crime, and he didn't do it, then you're letting someone like that free and to do it again. And I believe there are several someones like that are running free, while everybody is focused on Richard Allen that had nothing to do with the crime. I mean, there's nothing that places him there. There's no evidence that places him there at this crime scene at all. And I'm not going to talk about the bullet again because it pisses me off, because that's not science, and it's not even a thing. So anyway, there should be some evidence that proves that. And if he didn't do it, there's evidence, because none of his DNA was there, none of this or that. There was a lot of DNA at the scene, apparently. A lot of it was female DNA at the scene. There was some male DNA there. And I don't know why they don't release whose it is. One of the ISP troopers that was charged with having some CP on his phone, because there were several of those. So, protect somebody like that. It seems like you would want to out them and all of their buddies. Who knows? I mean, they kind of do their own thing up there in Elk Snout, Indiana. So, whatever. And I'm going to have to get on. I ignored them too much, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and I'll do another live. I had planned on doing one like Thursday night, but then something came up and couldn't do that. But I'll try to give as much notice as I can. But I have a big family. So those of you that came in, I appreciate you coming in. Hit the like if you want, or don't if you don't want to. I appreciate you all being here. And I'm going to go back and read the chat later and see if anybody gave me any information. I'm on live. So anyway, but I appreciate all of you, and thanks for coming in today. And I'll talk to you later.